Chapter 18 of Wizards of Once. Oh dear, the story turns in an unexpected direction. There was a nasty silence. "What do you mean you can't get your hands off the stone?" said Tsar. "I mean they're stuck. My hands are stuck to the stone." "How is that possible?" exclaimed Bodkin. What had happened was this. Wish had been kneeling down, helping Tsar hold squeeze juice against the stone, and as she got to her feet she stumbled clumsily, as she often did. She put both hands out with flat palms against the stone to steady herself, and she could not get them off again. Puzzled, she tried to pull away, but the harder she pulled, the more stuck they were. Now she was kneeling down once more, both hands on the stone, her forehead pressed against the cold grey surface. Her hands were stuck to the stone like glue. She tried to move her little finger, but it would not budge. A unpleasant, warm feeling was in her hands now, and she was beginning to feel a little sick. She was getting the oddest sensation. It was as if some compelling force from within the stone was dragging her inside out, emptying her like it was draining a bottle of wine. "What's happening?" demanded Bodkin. "Why can't she get her hands off the stone? Has something gone wrong? What does this mean?" "This is so strange, ever so strange," said Caliban. Tsar and Bodkin tried to help Wish pull her hands away, but they were stuck fast. All that pulling and scraping at Wish's fingers did was make her fingers bleed, and she cried out for them to stop. The sprites could not use spelling, of course, in Sycorax's iron dungeons, so they just buzzed around, wailing, "You have to listen to the stories, listen to the fairy tales, don't touch the stone," which wasn't very helpful, frankly, since Wish had already touched the stone, so it was rather late to warn her not to. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, what's going on? There's something weird happening, I know there is. I just wish we'd never come here. Are you all right, Wish? Is it painful, is it?" "No," said Wish, "it's not painful. I feel a bit sick, but it doesn't hurt." Wish was feeling nauseous and confused and scared. It was very claustrophobic to be stuck in a horrible cavern in a dungeon 100 yards underground, with your hands stuck to an enormous grey stone. Wish's imagination started playing tricks on her. What if she was stuck there forever? This wasn't the problem with magic objects, and why you had to be very careful about touching them. You never quite knew what the rules were. What if that was the moral of the fairy tales, that if you put your hands on the stone and you were the wrong kind of person, like a warrior rather than a magic person, you could never get them off again? 7 minutes passed. 8 minutes passed. "What is happening?" Wish kept repeating. 9 minutes, 10 minutes. "What is going on?" said Caliban. It was so hot in the room that sweat was rolling down Tsar's face in great wet tears, and his shirt was soaking wet. Stranger still, the heat seemed to be affecting the enchanted spoon. He drooped on the princess's shoulder, trying to comfort her, but almost bent double, poor spoon, as if, in sympathy with her predicament, the life was being sucked out of him as well. The snowcats and the sprites sensed danger and formed a defensive circle around Tsar. The sprites holding up their arms, trying and failing to spell and curse, with such intensity now that the air bristled with frustrated magic. Wish was limp and frantic with trying not to panic. "I'm not going to be stuck here forever, am I, Caliban?" "No, no," said Caliban, trying hard to be reassuring. "No, no, not forever. Forever is a long word. I'm sure it's just a little hiccup. Something small, misunderstanding, and any moment now you'll be able to get your hands off." Wish's forehead was very near to the stone. Was it her imagination, or did the rock in front of her seem to be getting lighter? Lighter and lighter, and somehow more transparent, as if the surface of the stone was just a membrane, and she could see right into the stone itself. Oh, by mistletoe and oak and all things sweet and poisonous. As Wish looked fascinated and mesmerised, she thought she saw an eye open somewhere in the heart of the stone, and a horrible little creaking voice whispered, "Hello, I've been waiting for you." Tsar stared open-mouthed. The stone seems to be talking now. "It's not the stone," gasped Wish. "There's something in there." There was a moment of blinding, dazzling colour, and as Wish's eye adjusted, she was looking straight into the eye of an enormous witch, all curled up inside the stone, legs folded up underneath itself like a large, dark grasshopper. 19. Magic can never be destroyed, it can only be hidden. In Canso the Enchanter had a saying that Sycorax would have done well to remember. Magic can never be destroyed, it can only ever be hidden. How very true that saying was, for this was the secret of the stone that takes away magic. It was taking away magic for a reason. What is that? Whispered Wish in an absolute horror. I, said the horrible, terrifying, creaking voice, am the King Witch. Oh, I've a Newton toe, a beastly frittering frog, cursed Caliburn in horror. Destiny has led us up the garden path. It's the wrong kind of star-cross. It's the universe in one of its trickiest moods. It's fate having a very bad day indeed. It was indeed the King Witch. And it looked like fate had been playing a mischievous game with them. You see, wizards used to have a tradition of never writing anything down. The problem with that is, when the truth gets passed from mouth to ear over the course of a number of centuries, it can get deformed and fragmented along the way. It seemed like the sprites were right to be saying, "Do not touch the stone." It appeared like the fairy tales may have had a point. As Caliburn said, the trouble with stories is, you have to know what they mean. For now, at last, the real secret of the stone was discovered. Here was the truth of it. Many centuries ago, the King Witch had been defeated in the last witch war and cast inside the stone. For hundreds of years, he had been soaking up the magic from outside, waiting and waiting. Queen Sycorax thought she was bringing the once magic people to the stone of her own free will. How could she dream that she was responding to the will of the witch inside the stone? That inside the very heart of the iron fort, quiet inside the grey rock, there was another heart, another will that was pulling, scheming, wishing and wanting, with such dreadful invisible force, like the long-legged spinner in the centre of a great grey web. "It's a witch, it's 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 a witch!" shrieked the sprites and the hairy fairies, climbing up the air in the fear, sending out little clouds of black terror smoke. "Give me your magic," whispered the King Witch. "Give me your magic, give me your magic, give me your magic." "There must be some mistake," pleaded Wish, forcing herself to look at the horror inside the stone. "I'm afraid I don't have any magic to give you. I'm not a wizard. I'm just an ordinary warrior princess. Please let me go." "Oh, but you do have magic," replied the voice of the King Witch. "Trust me, I know magic when I feel it. And the magic that you have isn't ordinary at all. It's a very special kind of magic." I'm working on the voice here. "A magic that I have been waiting for a long, long time. The kind of magic that works on iron." Oh my goodness. "Get me off the stone!" yelled Wish. Pandemonium in the chamber of magic removal. Bodkin and Czar hauled at Wish's fingers, but her hands would not budge. "It can't be true, can it?" wept Wish. "I'm a warrior. Warriors can't be magic. It's impossible." But there was no such thing as impossible, only improbable. And the moment that the King Witch had said those words, every single person in the room knew it must be true. It explained everything. It explained why Wish had been feeling a little different and peculiar lately. For the last couple of months, plenty of odd things had been happening to her. Needles wriggling to life in her hands, rugs inexplicably moving beneath her feet or curling up at the edges when she stepped on them. Objects she touched slipping through her hands like water or tingling with electricity when she put her fingers on them. Things that she thought she had put in one place turning up unexpectedly in another. Her hair lifting up when she met particular people or entered certain rooms and softly wriggling itself into a bird's nest of tangles. Clothes ripping, shoes coming loose, keys going missing. She thought it was just her being forgetful and clumsy and absent-minded, even more useless than she generally was, but Wish was 13 years old, and that was the time when a person's magic first came in. "The spoon," whispered Bodkin to himself. A warrior who was magic. Inconceivable. But could it possibly be that the iron spoon had come alive because Wish's weird magic that works on iron was enchanting it? The character of the spoon drooping on Wish's shoulder, now Bodkin came to think of it, was very Wish-like. Kind and loyal, a little reckless, a little odd. How could Wish enchant something without even knowing what she was doing? because magic is hard to control, particularly when you're not even aware you have it. And that was typical too. Of course, if Wish was going to have magic, it would be very Wish-like of her to have magic that was so different from other people. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, flapped Caliburn. I knew we weren't asking the right questions. The questions we should have been asking are, why are the witches waking now? Why here, why us? And the answer is, they're waking because Wish's magic has just come in. Caliburn was right. There are no coincidences. For centuries, those witches had lain asleep. But they had indeed chosen this particular moment to wake from hibernation because they sensed that Wish had come into her magic, and it was something that they needed. Give me the magic, enchanted the King Witch inside the stone in that same dreadful creaking, croaking voice. Give me the magic that works on iron. Why does it want that? Wept Wish, already knowing it was a question to which she didn't want to know the answer. Caliburn had worked out why. He's trying to get enough magic to break out of the stone, screamed Caliburn. We have to get her off it. Get me off the stone right now, screamed Wish. Tiff and Storm try and spell her off the stone. I'll have a go at pulling her again. Tiff and Storm hissed furiously, spitting with anger and irritation. Great galumphing, smelly human girlie, she's gone mad, master. What we need to do now is get out of here. Obey me, said Zar sternly. The sprites desperately riffed through their spell bags. Invisibility, love potions, cursing spells, flying, all small-time magic. Useful things in everyday life, but not for facing a great dark evil like a witch. They tried every wand in their quivers, drivers, the number 4s, 5s, but of course their magic could not work anyway in a prison full of iron. The King Witch's horrible creaking voice got loud and louder, filling the room with horror. Give me your magic! Give me your magic! Give me your magic! Chanted the witch, and the louder it chanted, the more panicky Wish became. How do I use the magic to get away? Give me your magic! Give me your magic! Give me your magic! You have to want something really bad. Wish for it, spell it, Saw replied, and then point it out with your hands. I can't, panted Wish, who was now feeling so sick she wanted to give up. My hands are stuck to the stone, and why can't I get them off? It's so easy to take Squeeze Juice away. The witch will have let you take Squeeze Juice away, said Caliburn, whereas it won't want to let you go at all. With her hands stuck to the stone, she couldn't perform magic independently of the witch, even if she had known how to perform magic in the first place. Any separate thought was being sucked out of her through those hands. She could feel the numbing effect of the witch's thoughts entwining with her own, as if she were being eaten alive by a large animal and was coming round to its point of view in the digestion process. After all, the warriors had sworn to destroy magic, so it was perfectly reasonable for witches to fight back, said her thoughts, and she did not know whether they were her own or the witches'. Give me your magic, give me your magic, give me your magic. Wish could see right into the King Witch's body where his 2 black hearts were beating, and every little artery was lit up like a green network of roads, all the veins on a leaf. But there were other roads too, roads of magic crisscrossing the King Witch's bright green arteries, tiny little paths winding through a white forest. Both the King Witch's palms were pressing right up against the stone on the inside, exactly opposite to where Wish's hands were stuck on the outside, and she could feel the magic flowing out of her fingers and into the hands of the King Witch in steady rhythmic pulses in time to the beating of her heart. I wish to get away, I wish, I wish, I wish. Chaos in the chamber of magic removal as the hypnotic chanting of the witch grew deafeningly stronger, and the sprites led off their spells randomly, and the snowcats howled and roared. Fight it! Cried Caliburn. Try with everything you have to break away. Be disobedient. Think of Zar defying his father. Get angry, Wish, and fight back. Curse the witch. Don't give up your magic because you think that's what a warrior ought to do. Wish thought of Zar early in the camp, yelling at his father, and she did so. And as she did, she could see the flow of magic going from her to the witch slowing. It's too late, said Bodkin. The stone is moving. The stone had begun to rock, gently at first, and then wilder, faster. Oh, witches, whiskers, and murmuring mistletoe and yellow toenails of the balmiest boghoggers in bogdom, thought Bodkin. The witch might have finally soaked up enough magic to break out of the stone. Oh, pardon me. Leave, 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 shrieked the sprites and the fairies turning bright as meteors. But they could not leave, Wish there on her own. Not Bodkin, not Tsar, nor Caliburn, nor the Snowcats, not even the Sprites. Sprites have a bad name for themselves. People say they are treacherous, flighty creatures who do not know the meaning of love nor loyalty. But all I can say is this. These sprites, despite their terror at the rocking stone, at the witch about to emerge, at the fear of death itself, stayed by their master's side. They were hissing and spitting like bonfires, but none the less they stayed. Without thinking, Tsar drew the enchanted sword. The light shone on the blade. Once there were witches, but then I killed them. He held the sword up over his head, gave a great big yell, and plunged it right into the stone with all of his strength. Of course that ought to be impossible, a sword made of iron to enter a stone, but that magic sword sank straight into the stone, right up to the hilt, as if Tsar was plunging it into earth. Boom! Every single strand of Wish's hair sprang up and shone like fire. A smell of burning air added to the smoke of the room. The door of the chamber exploded out of its hinges and slammed into the opposite wall. Lightning shot off the surface of the stone, and Wish was catapulted off it. She shot backwards through the air and landed with a horrible thud at the back of the room. Little lines shot off all the surface of the stone, just like the lines that appear on an egg before a chick is born. "The stone is cracking!" shrieked Tiffin Storm. "The stone is cracking!" The stone cracked from side to side. A great jagged split, an inch wide, zigzagged across the stone, with the sword stuck in the centre of it. And out of that split, something slithered. And I'm leaving it there. I will see you later. Goodbye. Have a lovely day.